the unrealized ambition of Mr. Zelensky's trip to the United States. Welcome to Eagle News Channel. Zelensky traveled to Washington in the hopes of convincing the United States to hand over 5 highly effective offensive weapons. Nevertheless, only 2 of his goals were met. On December 21st, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made an unannounced visit to the United States. While there, he met with Vice President Joe Biden and addressed lawmakers on Capitol Hill. The purpose of Zelensky's trip is to make a plea to the United States government to maintain funding for the development of more potent weaponry for the purpose of enhancing Ukraine's military capabilities in preparation for the beginning of major counteroffensive operations in the next year. According to 2 experts, DeYoung and Missy Ryan, despite having successful meetings at the White House and delivering a speech that was enthusiastically received on Capitol Hill, there is little evidence to suggest that Mr. Zelensky has been successful, at least in the near term. Analysis from the Washington Post. Mikhailo Podolyak, an assistant to President Zelensky, outlined the 5 things that Kyiv wants the most in a post on Twitter earlier this month with the headline "My Christmas Wish List." The German Leopard and Marder combat tanks, the American M1 Abrams tank, and the American Patriot air defense system are included on this list. The Abrams tactical ballistic missiles have a range of 300 kilometers. The Biden administration, however, decided against purchasing any of the first 4 offensive weapons. The new aid package for Ukraine, which is worth $1.85 billion US, will only provide the country with 1 Patriot air defense missile system. The official from the United States Department of Defense stated that Ukraine already possesses an adequate number of tanks manufactured in the Soviet Union and that the United States M1 Abrams tanks that Kyiv wants to be sent are too difficult to maintain and operate. During a joint press conference with Zelensky, Vice President Biden was asked about the potential of sending long-range missiles that may assist Ukraine in hitting targets deep within Russia. In response, Biden warned that the use of such weapons could disrupt the alliance. Ukraine has received the most backing from NATO. Biden stated that a significant number of NATO nations did not wish to start a direct battle with Russia. Officials in the Biden administration were more enthused about the concept of negotiations than they were about turning over weapons with a greater destructive potential. According to a senior U.S. source, they addressed what Kyiv needed to do in order to secure the strongest position possible in order to encourage a discussion. The official reiterating the position of the administration stated that these discussions do not mean that the United States will impose how the negotiations should be conducted, when, or what its red lines should be. This is due to the fact that these are decisions that Ukraine is responsible for making on its own. According to observers, the events that took place during Zelensky's visit demonstrate that the United States and Ukraine have the same position on how to deal with Russia. However, this does not imply that Washington and Kyiv share the same opinion on all issues. The meeting is an opportunity for Vice President Biden and Prime Minister Zelensky to have a serious discussion about what the United States will do, not what it will ask the Ukrainian leadership to do, to ensure that both sides have a common understanding of their goals and a shared vision of where they want to go. Ivo Daler, a former U.S. ambassador to NATO who is currently the head of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, remarked that it is important for countries to understand one another. The possibility of pushing things too far and too quickly, which might heighten relations with Russia, continues to be a source of concern for Vice President Joe Biden. In the meanwhile, Mr. Zelensky would like to state that he requires the ongoing help that he requires. Only the United States is able to deliver, continued Daler. According to the findings of the analysts, there are 3 possible outcomes of the negotiations needed to end the conflict. The first one is a component of a peace plan that Zelensky submitted a month ago, and it demands for Russia to withdraw from all of the territory that it controls, including parts of the Donbass and Crimea. The second possible outcome is that the 2 sides will revert to the border that existed in 2014, when Russia maintained control over the separatist districts in the Donbass. The most likely outcome is that Russian forces will withdraw from the Donbass while maintaining their control over Crimea. However, Mr. Zelensky did not favor the last two possibilities, pointing out that peace can only be accomplished when Russia withdraws from all of the territories that it holds, including the Crimean Peninsula. He stated that this is the only way that peace can be established. This is the situation that Russia has deemed to be unacceptable. According to a senior administration official, Joe Biden probed Zelensky's current opinions on the idea of discussions at their meeting on December 21st. This was done in order to determine whether or not Zelensky would be open to negotiating. However, the person acknowledged that the talk didn't make much sense because it appears that Moscow is not interested in negotiations at this time. According to Liana Fix, a researcher on Europe at the Council on Foreign Relations in the United States, what Russia wants is a temporary ceasefire, so that they may have more time to reorganize and train additional soldiers. According to Fix, Russia is attempting to buy time following its defeats at the hands of Ukraine's counteroffensive in the fall. On December 21st, during the final meeting of the year held by the Russian Defense Ministry, President Putin and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu jointly unveiled new initiatives while also acknowledging the ministry's recent mistakes in a roundabout way. Shoigu recommended increasing the minimum age for enlistment in the military from 18 to 20 years old, in addition to boosting the number of the armed forces from 1 million people to 1.5 million by the end of this year. These suggestions were approved by President Putin, who did, however, point out that difficulties in military operations should be handled in a specific way. According to TASS, he gave Minister Shoigu the instruction to make sure that the army has access to the best weapons, medical equipment, meals, and footwear. Our budget for defense does not have any restrictions, and we will be able to give anything that the army need. I have high hopes that this will bring about the outcomes that are appropriate, Putin remarked. In spite of the fact that senior Ukrainian military officials have issued a warning that Russia will launch further attacks in the coming months, a senior official from the State Department has stated that Washington believes the leadership in Moscow has a different perspective. Contradictory. They argue that some Russian officials want to control more area, while others fear that Russian forces are not ready to perform large military operations. Nevertheless, some Russian officials want to control more territory. However, officials from the United States feel there is no indication that the Kremlin is genuinely considering the option of withdrawing troops or conducting peace negotiations. The new military systems that have been delivered to Ukraine by the United States and its allies, particularly the Patriot missile system, will assist Ukraine in better defending itself against the Russian air raids that have been targeting the country's infrastructure. Officials from the United States Department of Defense have stated that the decision to transfer the Patriot system was made with the intention of providing a multi-layered defense system to combat cruise missiles and Russian drones. An official from the United States Department of Defense stated that the Patriot system is not a comprehensive air defense option for Ukraine. The next stage in a long line of steps that we are working toward is this one. We will be able to deliver a formidable capability with the Patriot battery, but the United States and its allies will continue to work toward the goal of strengthening Ukraine's air defenses. According to Mikhailo Zabrodsky, the deputy head of the Department of Defense in Ukraine, some senior Ukrainian officials believe that the only way to stop Russian airstrikes is to intercept them from the start, which means striking Russian airfields and missile launch sites. These officials believe that this is the only way to stop Russian airstrikes. According to the chairman of Ukraine's Committee on National Security, Defense, and Intelligence, he said. He went on to say that in order for the Ukraine to accomplish this goal, in addition to the Patriot system, it requires additional ATACMS missiles as well as modern tanks from the United States and Germany. On the other hand, Germany announced on the 21st that it would not provide these weapons to Ukraine before the United States done so. Germany's first objective is to support Ukraine as much as possible, but according to a spokeswoman for the German government, Stefan Hebestreit, another top priority is ensuring that NATO does not come into conflict with Russia and that Berlin is not acting alone. According to Hebestreit, the unfortunate reality is that to this day, Ukraine has not received any main combat tanks from the West. Even if President Zelensky's trip to the United States did not result in a total success in terms of the transfer of armaments, it did bring about a great deal of hope. An expert from the Atlantic Council named Daniel Fried commented that Mr. Zelensky is actively seeking to develop and broaden his pro-Ukrainian support. This objective appears to have been accomplished, despite the concerns that the House of Representatives, which will be controlled by Republicans beginning in January 2023, will have many voices opposed to raising the amount of military assistance provided to Ukraine. Fried added that after Zelensky's visit, they can anticipate support for Ukraine from all sides of the aisle in Parliament. Support the channel by like and share the video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell to receive the latest news. Thank you for watching.